Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
3, 2, 1, mush.
Hey, Tom.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, Cassie.
Hi, James.
It feels like we haven't had this crew, this magic crew of 3 of us here together forever.
Been a
So I
minute.
love that. But even more than that, tonight is such a special episode. We're hanging out in Scottsdale, Georgia, hanging out because when we first started this show, one of the first dream guests I wanted was this man right here. Brother of mine,
Cheers.
Beautiful friend from Philadelphia, Jason Clouser, and we're going to get into this. And the best thing about this show and us and how lucky we all are is this magic and our friendships and bonds become family, and it's over just love and charity, being good, and music, like rock and roll. You know?
Absolutely.
I mean, and I believe in it. It's become my religion, and this record, I think, in one way or another, has been important to so many people I know. But one of my favorite things in the world to do or to experience is when someone turns me onto a record. And then we believe in paying it forward. Punk rock thoughts. That's what we do. We love paying it forward and turning someone else onto the record. You know what I'm saying? So this record, we're gonna
This
let
is a
Jason,
record
yeah,
that you have to be turned on to
Yes.
because it's not a record that you're going to come across, at least in the United States,
Right.
just in your local Turtles in
Right,
a way.
exactly. So Jason Clouser, who's not just a best friend, he's a brother of ours, a true mate for life. What's the record that we're talking about, Jason?
Mush, fucking
Leatherface Mush.
Yes.
Mush fucking Leatherface.
Yes.
Mush
You might-
fucking
well, you might as
Leatherface.
well- I was going to say, mush in
I-
your face, Leatherface.
I do want to say that we've been trying to do this one so
That's-
long that this record, when you had originally picked it, I could not find it on vinyl.
Right.
And it was coming out. This is a
I think
repress.
it was Rough House that originally did it, yeah.
You had picked this early on, and like it was, we hadn't been doing hardly any shows. We hadn't maybe we had like a couple shoots under our
We had
belt
like 6 shoots under our
before
belt or
you
something.
before you picked this, and I could not find it on vinyl, but I heard that it was, and that's one of the reasons why then after we had such a trouble like scheduling you.
And then we tried to get you, and then, well, you live in Philly, so you're like, oh, can you come here? Can you do it this time? But it
Yep.
really is beautiful that we're able to
But
do it
this
now.
came out, I think this might have come out in June of 2021, this repress.
This version, yeah.
Right, I think, right?
Yeah,
and we
the
started the
the-
show in
The
2021.
original was 91. I mean, that's,
Totally.
Oh yeah.
That's
Well,
the year I graduated high school.
And this is an interesting
I missed it all.
thing about
Like,
this was the
unbelievable.
record.
So did we.
The record came out in 91, but it didn't actually come out in the U.S. until about a year and a half later when they
Okay.
had already put out, or at least
Mix.
recorded Minx.
Yeah, so we all need to chill. Everyone calm down because we all have stories here. Okay, so first things first. We were in your kitchen in Philly.
That's right.
And I'm like, have you ever checked this out?
This is the
So-
origin story. Here we go.
So bringing you on here, like, we're just hanging out. Late nights turn into mornings.
Yeah.
Like literally, art imitating life or vice versa. Frankie Stubbs talks about nights turn into days. We've experienced that. And I'm like, yo, have you ever listened to this?
I was like, what? No. And then I'm like, how? And as soon as I heard it, immediately, top 10 probably ever, top 5 ever. And I'm like, how do I've never heard this?
And this was really early when you guys had first met each other, like,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
This is not very
Yeah.
long after you were working up in Philly.
Right, I was working at NBC with Brian Kinchlow. Shout out to our brother B. Kinch. And it was a strange time, it was, 2018 maybe. And at one point I was I certainly was living in Brooklyn and staying in Philly during the week and going back and forth. But then I met these great people, and I was like, man, I'm just going to stay here on the weekends and crashing and hanging out with Jason. And
So this wasn't on a cassette.
no, actually,
CD
I
maybe?
think we listened to it on
Or
someone's
on an
iPod.
iPod?
Yeah, I think I was like, have you ever
'Cause
heard
it's
Leatherface?
2018.
Yeah, I'm
Here
like,
we
have you
go.
ever heard
Dude,
Leatherface?
it's on an
Mush?
iPod.
I felt like an idiot. I'm
I
like,
must
how? It was my. How did I not ever?
It's like 5 in the morning.
It was right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Right
it's
in
like
my
5
wheelhouse.
in the
Never
morning.
heard it.
5 in the
Never.
morning. YouTube on my phone. I go, listen to this greatest love song ever. It's called, Not a Day Goes By. And you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know. And
absolutely incredible.
but everyone's got that, and then you have friends that now are my friends, and you're saying to them, I can't believe that Tom just turned me on to this band Leatherface, and they're like, oh, that band's great. And you're like, well, how come you didn't turn me on to it? You know.
They got them late too.
Yeah.
But
Amazing.
man, like it was. I just can't even like that was right there,
And-
like for me.
And
But
so
it's
when you
never.
listened to it that night, it was something you instantly,
Instantly.
like, because I have
Oh, he
stories
told a
about
week later. He
this and
texted
all,
me. He
like-
goes, I listened to that album 20 times in a
Instantly.
week. You know.
Well, I know that. I
It's
know
like it
that.
was made
It's
for
everything
you.
I loved.
Yeah.
And you
yeah.
didn't even know it.
Everything I loved then.
Yeah.
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 Everything
I mean,
loved.
I have a strange relationship with this album, and it's kind of like very sentimental to me, even though I don't think I ever consciously like sat down and listened to it from start to finish until I started researching this. But it's a record that I know in the early 90s, like around 94, like 95, 96, I know like I had this group of my group of friends was
Great-
mostly guys.
great guy friends.
And
Us,
they
yes.
were and it was like you, Brian Colantino, Brian Kitchen, like it was just and I know it was I knew how much you guys
heard the
loved
name
them,
mentioned
and
so
I
much.
knew how much, and this record in specifically, but definitely Leatherface, and they were a band that I never really like, because being a girl with mostly guy friends, like there's like a certain, get the certain impression that like you have to be kind of like tougher, and I just didn't know that it was, I could seem so much tougher than me, so what's interesting.
Also, the name sounds like they're
It
going to be a
does,
harder
it
band
does.
than this beautiful soft melodic stuff.
But then you
know.
go in here and you listen to it, and it's like
a
the
great point.
Well, it's the vocals are so, and I think that like the vocals are so vulnerable and
Right.
so emotional, and I think now listening back, it makes me kind of like sad that I missed out on this side of my good friends that I kind of didn't see, and I didn't allow myself to see because I was thinking,
Yeah, totally.
that so I love that. I love that it's something that the name is sentimental to me. It reminds me of a period like when we were hanging out at when you guys lived at the warehouses, and I
Right.
was going there a lot, and just a big connection to it that way. But then listening to it, and I'm just like crying listening to these
Right.
lyrics. But it definitely took me a few listens. I'm interested if you had listened to
Yeah.
it, James, and like prior to, and then.
Yeah, I mean, I know the relationship because it's like you're saying, this is a word of mouth band.
Very
like,
much
this is
so,
all it's not in stock in your local
No.
record store.
No, you're not going to get it at
It's
the
not
local
gonna
store.
be safe.
Yeah.
In fact, we were talking about Philly, and my friend Sarah Castillo, who's
Yeah.
coming down tomorrow. One of the first things I remember one thing she called me about way back when she was like, I'm looking for Leatherface records on vinyl. If you ever find Leatherface records on vinyl,
Let me know.
please get them,
Yeah.
and I will give you money. And I
Right.
still would never find them.
Well-
like, it's not like they just sort of appear.
No.
So it's somebody who is dubbing a tape, or burning a
Passing it on.
CD,
Giving it-
or
or-
sharing
or
a
listening to it.
YouTube video,
Yeah.
or
But the cool thing is so let's say, by the way, you have impeccable taste in music. Everyone in this table, I think, has great taste in music, and but we know music's about timing. So you were in this dark place. I might have been in this dark place. I'm like, this guy is like
music
Mark
for dark
Twain,
places.
Mark Twain, and Bill Burroughs and Tom Waits, two very fast buzzsaw guitars. And a week later, you're like, oh yeah, exactly. And so if you're a dude, if you're a guy and you go to this dark place, like immediate, like it resonate, And then you have great taste in music, and you trust me, and you've heard the name so much. But then by the third take, you're like, oh yeah, and you're crying as well.
Well, I mean, listening to it, I had to listen to it a few times. I think it was first before I had gotten the record in, because we were planning on doing this, hoping to do this at one point earlier.
yeah.
And so before I had gotten the record in, and I was just listening to it, there's something about the mix. It's a lot more clearer, and I don't know if it's just this repressing, but it's a lot more clearer on this than it is on like whatever digital format that I was originally listening to. But also, it's kind of hard to make out what he's saying. It's not that I minded his voice. I know a lot of people do. I didn't.
The vocals are low in the
They-
mix.
They
yes.
are, and so it took me a little bit of time to that. And like once I connected to some of the things he was saying, and I was like, holy shit, that is so deep. Like, but not like in your face, like just overtly deep, but just this subtle, very plain, very
listen
simple.
Listen to the wind
but
and
really,
drink a lot of gin.
I mean,
come on, are you
but no,
kidding
I
me?
think
You know?
it's like, I mean, there are just some things like, it's like, all I can do is try my best for you
Sure, yeah.
with all my indecision.
Yeah.
That line breaks me. But it's like, but
Love it.
part of it so much was that the record label didn't see hits, so they didn't have American distribution, and it came out like a year and a half after, you know, a year.
There's another reason why.
Why is that?
Well, so the magic of all of this is like us. So, you know, each of us hear about different places. Frank, a old skinhead buddy of mine, turned me onto it in around '93, and he said, "Listen to this. It sounds like Motorhead meets the Police." I was instantly, you know,
really
And
does, though.
I was
it's the best.
I was instantly like,
And
okay.
that's what
And
it
then they
is.
covered "Message in a Bottle," okay. And but of course I fall in love with songs like "Now the Day Goes By" and I mean, "Bowl of Flies." Are you kidding me? You know, do you understand what it's like to be a laughingstock in life? Are you kidding me? You know. But so for years now, I'm just meeting Tim Nassar, Brian Colantuno, Marlo Sanchez, Dwayne Halstead, Brian Kinchlow, and I'm meeting like 10 or 15 people who are huge fans of theirs. And we just hang out and listen to it and sing to each other and cry.
And that was like the
I'm talking
group that
about
I was
very thick
hanging
dudes.
around. Like these were
You know,
very.
and then they come to Atlanta in '99. I meet him. We hit it off, and Frankie Stubbs, cheers to you and the rest of the guys. You know, he was so kind. He gave me his number. I was telling Jason about this, and he goes, "You ever in New England? Call me." And it was like a 20-digit number, and I'm at one of those.
Yeah, good luck.
I'm one of those. Wait, what happened? I was
Yeah.
one of those English.
No, like-
one of those. Yeah, I know. It's one of those English red phone.
You're in the
booths.
red phone.
Like a year later, I call him at his landline. I go, "It's Tom Cheshire." He's like, "Who's that?" I go, "I met you at the Echo Lounge in Atlanta." And he said, "If I'm ever in England, to call you." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Where are you?" "Oh, you're about 5 hours away. Take this train to here, take this train." And he let me and my girlfriend sleep in his bed, and he slept on the couch, and we stayed with him. And it was amazing. So we had these conversations, and I'm seeing magazines that came out around that time. So yes, they didn't think it would do well in the States, and by the time they went for it, Nirvana was the biggest band in the world.
They
go,
were.
"You guys
They
like
were.
this."
That's
They
what
were.
that
Yeah.
was happening in '91.
Yeah.
In '91,
Yeah.
I grew up in Lancaster. I lived in Philly. I moved to Philly. It was Amphetamine Reptile. It was
Yes.
It was all grunge, everything. Like that was not happening. Then.
Right.
You know, that sound was not
Yeah.
there.
Well-
I don't even know. I think if I ever heard it then, I probably would have loved it, but I don't even know.
But and that's
like
the beautiful
it's
thing
you have
about
been
the
ready
music.
for
different.
it.
Yeah, it's a different.
It's kind of a
it was-
mature band in a way too. It's about you kind of have to experience life
Right.
to really.
I would have loved. You know what? I would have loved it in
Right.
'86. I don't know if I would have loved it in fucking
No,
'91. You know
so,
what I mean?
like I said, I heard it-
seriously, like
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it in '93. It only got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And then '99, they found out they're big in the States.
Yeah.
Or they have, not big, a cult following.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can bring 300 people in every town, you know. And so they're doing stuff for like a Veil and stuff, you know. But he was like, yeah, 92, 93, 94, the label didn't know what to do. He goes, we're touring with Bad Religion in Japan, and no one wants to see us. And we're touring Australia, opening up for Soundgarden. And people like, no one wants to
that's what
see
I'm
us.
saying.
No one wants to see
Yeah.
us.
no,
Like,
yeah,
you know,
was
no one.
different.
That was not happening.
But,
then.
but
Yeah.
the interesting thing was because they did that. Okay, well, I'm going to go on two different points here. I mean,
Please do.
well, first I was going to say that you know, as far as like English punk, like this isn't a lot of what you got out of English punk. Like there was like the initial punk
and then
scene.
Angelic Upstarts and wonderful like oi bands
But
and stuff.
a lot
There
of
was nothing
oi
like
band,
this.
right?
Yeah.
Well, they kind of went. You know, there was like the Sex Pistols and the initial punk wave, and then a lot of it went as far as punk goes into like some went new wave, and then other went more oi. Like if you're going, so it, like this, but this sound was going on a lot in the early '90s here because they did this, which they eventually did the split with Hot Water Music, which you can. They were inspired by
Sure,
Leatherface.
100%.
But it's like, but you can hear a lot of the bands that we listen to, like the Group of Friends in the early '90s. They really do have this feel, but it is more of like a. It definitely wasn't what you were hearing on the radio.
Oh yeah,
and
later on, after Frank said, you know, Motorhead meets the Police, I go, oh, throw Jawbreaker and Husker Du in there as well. Like, you know, I mean, like there's so many of the things that, you know, but
I
Motorhead makes
just
Police
have
amazing.
this picture of like Sting and Lemmy like
Yeah.
hanging out and
Yeah.
like writing together. But I want to hear your testimonial. I want to hear like
when you played this for me, my jaw dropped. I'm like, what year is this? He was like, this record was in '91. I was like,
What?
can't even believe it. I can't believe it. Like this is everything
Changing.
I love.
Me too.
And I
Emotional.
never heard it. Like
This is my new
it
favorite
wasn't
band
even
instantly.
it wasn't even on the radar. Like,
Right.
I mean, I have friends. Everyone loves music, right? It wasn't
Yes.
even on anyone's radar. It's incredible.
It's
to me.
phenomenal. And
Absolutely incredible,
And
man.
it's like, yes, the vocals are a little low on the mix, but you love it because you got to work hard. And once you read the lyrics, understand the
I
lyrics.
think that's it.
Did you
And then the
did you have a
fast-
lyric sheet? That's the thing.
They do have good. They have
I-
one in this. Though.
I don't think
Sure,
I did. I think,
but-
he didn't have it on vinyl at his store. It was Crash and Burn on
Yeah,
Roswell Road.
Crash and Burn, yeah.
And I bought the CD.
That was the like oi store.
When did you hear it? This record. I mean, I'm 50, right?
Yeah, later.
So,
Yeah, I got turned on about 93 it was, yeah.
I mean, that's
And
incredible.
It would have been sort of hot water music
Yeah.
time period
Yeah.
because I knew
Mid-90s, maybe.
obviously hot water music and because they did the split with them and then because of my friend Sarah from Philly whose
Right.
boyfriend also was a very big Leatherface fans and because of you guys
Yeah,
because you guys
and then basically through the guys from Gainesville, Florida, and then
Yeah.
like they're touring with bands like Avail from Richmond, Virginia, and what's the other awesome band from Minneapolis, Minnesota? Dillinger 4. Oh my goodness, great band. They were playing with a lot of those kind of epitaphy BYO bands. And that's what gave them a whole new audience. And everyone was like, wait, how have I never heard that? They kind of got a whole new audience. you
But
know?
they kind of cross. What's cool about them is that they can kind of be your favorite band for different types of music.
Sure.
Like they don't fit into a specific category where it's like they could only be like
Right.
their fan base could only be this one group
Right.
of people
No.
who like bad
Like when,
rock.
when Jason said he
It's
probably
like you have
he
people
probably had a
who
better
are-
chance getting
who
into
would love them.
86.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I love Homestead.
Like,
I
like
love
Husker
Scroll
Du.
Bait.
Like
I love
Husker Du.
that.
You know,
yeah.
what?
They remind me of Scroll Bait. They
do?
remind me of like that. You know that guitar driven.
Yeah,
you
sort
know.
of Husker Du,
Rest in
mid
peace,
'80s,
Dickie
and
Hammond.
Yeah.
All
yeah,
the
and
guys,
Louisville,
Yeah,
and,
yes.
and all the
That's what-
Homestead.
As soon as, yeah, exactly. When I
Yeah.
heard it, I was like, "How did I?" That's what I'm saying. That's what I love. How did this not?
Yeah,
These
Volcano
things-
Sun,
these great
Yes.
songs,
like
these
that,
great
yeah.
bands, once in a while they get through the cracks. But also, like Cassie said, it's like so it's a small English label. They really didn't know what to do with them. They probably didn't have money for a budget. They go, okay, well, we put it out. Let's see if it's going to be a sleeper or let's see what happens. Luckily, it develops that cult favorite. Totally.
It's an ultimate cult band. I mean, you're all into cult bands.
I
Like,
am,
Cult
yeah.
bands are your life's
Yeah.
blood,
Yeah.
and what you, everything you do is like you create cults
Oh,
as a cult band, and I think Leatherface is
Yeah.
a perfect cult band
Well-
that has a super devoted fan base that listens to a record once and is just like, I'm sold. Like I'm gonna
Right.
be listening to this band for the rest of my life.
Are you going to read the quote about Paul?
No. I can
We
a
may
little
be
later.
doing that. This is very funny.
But, no, like Frankie Stubbs actually says that he knew that they were doing it right. Like for him, when at their shows, the people with the mohawks would step aside, and like the
Left
kind
is
of like
smart.
more nerds with like
Come on.
glasses and stuff like
They're
that
more
would like
sensitive
come
people.
forward. I mean,
Yeah.
like that was more, which
Yeah.
really wasn't something that was really being done there.
Not in the UK.
And speaking of his voice, like a lot of people with his gravelly voice, but like the only reason he sings is because he's the only one that had any interest in writing lyrics.
That's the rule of that band.
Like they had
There's a few songs that the drummer sings on other albums and the bass player sings, and he goes, whoever brings a song to the table, you're singing it. And he brought the most
and
songs.
because he was writing the lyrics, yeah.
And you guys want to talk about some songs?
I mean-
Springtime, not superstitious. Those might be two.
Not superstitious.
I mean, goodness.
Kills
Not
me.
superstitious,
Kills
kills
me.
me.
Kills
I
me.
really
Kills
love
me.
Pandora's Box.
Yeah.
I really
Well,
love
Not
Pandora's
Superstitious.
Box. I love Not Superstitious.
Without Catholicism,
Man,
you
I
would
failed.
turn to God to
I
save
failed.
your soul.
I failed so many times. That's
Yeah.
the one.
Well, I try my best to do for you. Yes, I'll do that
yeah.
for you.
Do you think sometimes this band or bands like this, do they get too heavy in a certain way where you're like, I emotionally, I just can't handle this right now. I have to.
Well,
It was a little hard for me sometimes listening to it. Like while
this is a
preparing
very
for
special band to me.
Right.
I can't just casually put it on and rock
See,
it
James is so
on the
good.
way to the
You're
store.
so good at doing that kind of like reverse, like devil's advocate thing there. Because yes and no. Because also he's got a wicked sense.
Yeah, you can
He's got a
rock
wicked
out.
sense of humor.
You can-
and he's also being extremely what comedians do, self-deprecating.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's like, my hair's beyond repair. Look at my teeth; they're a mess.
It's funny.
My heart's broke.
It's
like,
emotional.
It's like, what, you know.
It
so
rocks.
It's very
It's
funny.
sort of like
it's got this honesty.
it can fit your
I
mood,
think.
whatever mood
Yeah.
you're feeling in. You can kind of latch
Well-
onto it. You can cry to it, and you can like.
I heard that record at exactly
In your
the
kitchen
right
at
time.
5 a.m.,
At the
yes.
exactly the right time.
Yeah.
And it's been, you know.
Yeah,
oh,
and let me
like-
just say, because this is a TV show, and our friendship, it's all about community and unity and stuff. And so, it was 2018, and what I'm about to say, this man can attest to. Winters in Philly might be the most depressing place on earth. And if it's snowing and turns to slush, it's rough. And Brian Kinslow's flying home every weekend to see his family. And I don't even want to deal with going on the train to my apartment in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And like, there were times that I'm under my covers in my apartment in Philly, and I'm crying and depressed, and I actually have to pee. And I actually had a really nice apartment there, you know, and I'm like, my bathroom's right there, 8 feet away. And I don't want to get up to use the restroom and pee because I'm afraid my walls are going to judge me. Like, I'm that depressed, like, you know. And then literally me and Kinchlow play like a one-off show, like just acoustic, me and him. Yeah. Meet this gentleman, we do 2 sets, and he's like, oh, I just went through a divorce, I got 4 kids. Second set, I do a Tom Waits song, it's got to my new brother. Playing, I see this big, beautiful man, it's like tears going down. After the show, we're hanging out. I go, man, we met each other at the right time, and we just hung out, and you start playing music for each other.
You met a soulmate.
Yes, and it's wonderful, and I'm sharing this record with you, and you're like, what is this? You know, like, Arm, Hairs, and Braille, and I go, I would be bold enough to say, and I said to you, I go, I'll put this record up there with Tom Waits' Rain Dogs and Clash of Love Call.
Everything.
Like, that's how big it is, a record is to me. You know?
I tell you what, I was shocked, and I felt bad about myself for not even knowing this record. I'm like, this is everything I love. Like,
But
like
that's
I said,
okay.
I know,
that's
but I'm
actually
just
what makes it
saying.
better,
that
though.
I'm like, how? Like,
Yes.
I was like, how did I not?
Yes.
How have I never? How?
Yeah, and it was so funny.
Because it's not sitting. It's what?
It's
What
not
was
in.
the,
It's
what's
not
the
in
record
Turtles.
store?
Not in Turtles.
It's the Turtles.
It's not. It's not.
I'm thinking of what was the not Sound Exchange? Was it Sound Exchange? What's the
Record Exchange.
Record Exchange?
Tower Records, Record Exchange.
I'm sure it was a
Record Exchange.
Record Exchange at some point.
I'm-
But yeah, it's like it's not. It's such a word of mouth, almost more than any other band.
You're absolutely
because
right.
it's not like they never had a like MTV moment.
No.
Right.
It's like they're and they're not from the United States.
Right.
So it's not like they were coming through
It's
town.
just grew.
I love a lot of bands from like that didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. And but some reason this one just
Connected the
just
most.
just skirted everything like.
Wait.
it just-
And that's what makes it so shocking.
Yeah.
And it makes you hopeful for that
My
there are other
ears
bands
are
out there
so wide
that
open,
your
man.
next favorite
Oh
band
my
is
God.
could be out there.
What I
love
think
it.
is
Really good
and you
point.
always have to keep your
When-
eyes and ears
Yes.
open.
When you had first picked this, before I found out that it was coming out on the repress, which is a really, really pretty white
I'm glad
vinyl.
you didn't have to pay $250.
I did it.
for
It was
this record.
reasonable. I mean, I had to wait, but like so.
You were patient.
But I remember sending out a text to the group. I have cat hair on it, but like sorry, I remember sending out a text.
As long as there's no dog hair and syrup on it.
To find out if anybody had it that would loan
it to you.
And Brian Kinchlow responded. He's like, "That's a record," because I know Brian Colantuno has it.
Yeah.
Nobody like chimed
No
in
one's
like
gonna
you could,
trust
like,
because
and
they
Brian,
want it.
Brian Kinchlow was like, it was like that's a record
no one's
nobody's
loaning-
going to
no
loan
one's
out
gonna loan
to
it to
you.
you. Absolutely
Nobody's
right.
gonna because it's not just that they have
They don't want anything to
a
happen
cult
to it.
following, but it's such a
It's a personal record.
I mean, it is, but it's
Yeah.
like it's a cult following that's like committed, like, and rightly so because it's people that have like when you listen to this and you really like whether it's the music, which is awesome, or it's like the lyrics and how vulnerable they are and how they go together, like the roughness meets the complete
sentimentality.
truth.
Having
Yes.
known that makes me feel a little better, like that I didn't. But like,
Yeah.
it's still. I'm like, this is everything I love. I mean, it's right.
Sometimes
it was
it makes
right up my
you-
alley. Like,
it makes you a little not angry, but a little annoyed, where you're just like,
I missed all this time.
how can such a great record be so hard to get?
I know.
You know, like that is like a crime in a way.
That's right on the
obscure.
cusp of the CD, everything. Like,
Sure, yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but also, so you're talking about that self-deprecation and also like not taking yourself too seriously. And so I know because I really lucked out and became a friend of Frankie's, and we actually chatted recently because he's the last living member of the band alive. Andrew took his own life, the bass player, years ago.
I didn't know that.
Dickie Hammond, rest in peace, the king of the buzzsaw guitar, passed away a few years ago. What a sweet guy. And then the original drummer, Laney, passed away like 6 months ago. And so I sent Frankie a note and several bottles of red wine to me. And the next day I'm like, but I really just said it's a special time in my life, and thank you for your opening.
Honest.
And he responded back. He goes, sorry for the late response made. He goes, the feeling's completely reciprocal. He goes, you did just as much for me, like, you know, and thank you for shout outs, whatever.
See, that's the thing. He's really, like, so much respect for this human. Like, just so much.
Wonderful.
To like, I mean, he just seems like such an incredible. From like the interviews that I read, and just how. I mean, he just says it like it is, but not but from the heart, not in any kind of like a
very genuine guy.
So,
very genuine and very out there with. I mean,
you know, so you got these songs like, you know, Pandora's Box. You know, Not a Day Goes By, one of the best love songs ever. Like I said, Bowl of Flies destroys me, and Springtime, Not Superstitious. But you talk about like not taking yourself too seriously. He's got a song saying everyone could do it. Everyone knows how to make a baked potato. And he goes, I've stood in bars listening to conversations about Jesus Christ and the refugee and the royal family. Everybody knows how to make a baked potato.
You know what?
Like,
and here's the thing.
Like, are you kidding me? I've stood in bars listening to conversations
long enough.
about Jesus Christ and the refugee.
If I had to originally pick a song that like I didn't really understand at first, like it was the baked potato. I'm like,
so
why? I don't understand why he's singing with this like Oscar the Grouch voice, or like, you know, like about, you know, because that's how he kind of almost sounds, right? Like just this gravelly rumble.
He's saying
I know,
everyone's the same.
but I didn't. I know, but then like you really like
91,
once it really sinks in, and you're like, once it really sinks in, you're like, how beautiful! Like what a beautiful way to just put that.
It is a good point that this came out, that they did this in '91 too. Like saying that, and it's a very well executed album as far as like it is extremely tight. It sounds great. It's kind of timeless because we know there are albums where you just sort of threw them off.
They don't age that well.
And you're like,
that's
you know,
happened a
I
bunch
wish
with a lot
that
of
would have
hardcore
been
bands.
better.
Like New York hardcore bands that I like do not sound very good.
They don't sound very, but it's like also just do it right, make a great album that is executed perfectly, that's going to stand the test of time, that you're going to listen to in 2023.
It's beautiful.
It's still going to.
For me,
top records of all time.
Well, you go on. You can be on camera. What's up, dude? How you doing? Oh my God! Fucking good.
I love you.
What's up, brother? So yeah.
Big shout out, big shout out,
Frankie.
So this is so lovely. Yeah. So that's such a really good point as well, because like you know, don't do anything half-assed. And so I was the other night. We went into the
because this could be somebody's favorite record.
Right.
But for me, it's just the honesty. It is so from the heart.
Don't leave anything on the table.
This is 100% from the heart. Like you can just tell.
Go
so
for
the
it.
other night we're in my kitchen. Oh, most good things happen in kitchens.
You're always in a kitchen.
You turn people,
having a
drink and conversation. Listening to conversations about Jesus Christ and the refugee and the royal family. But like we're talking, and I turned you onto this record in your kitchen in Philadelphia. But my point is, so then I start playing some other, let's say, Leatherface records, and I go, well, Frankie also put out a record other named Jesse, a side record, and that's his only kid, his daughter's name is Jesse, and it's this beautiful record, and he's got this song called "Gone Fishing," and it's wicked, and it's like talking about all the stuff. He goes, do you ever think about me when you're with him? You know, whatever, I've gone fishing, like this, you know. And I'm like Army, I was like that, and I go, so what do you mean by like, you know, gone fishing? And he goes, you know, when you call like your girlfriend up, and you know it's already done, and basically her mom goes, she's out of the country, or she's washing her hair. He goes, well, this is the dude's response. When they call, just be like, whatever, I've gone fishing. Like that. And I was like, yes. Like, and it's like, so it's heartbreak and humor is what it is. You know what I mean? And it's the best, you know.
That's so important, because if it was if it was just one emotion, then it would be.
It'd be too much.
It'd be it would be like, I am not in the right place, not in the right headspace right now to put on this record. But if it balances out,
yes,
and it's not so one note, I think that you can listen to it in any kind of environment.
Because you actually
and make it what it is.
We're spending so much time talking about Frankie, and as we should.
Your best friend. I know.
No, because he is like Bill Burroughs, like lyrically, in my opinion,
Well,
but you cannot be
Dickie
said
Hammond.
about him and Dickie's saw guitars, those dual guitars. Like no bands have tried to do it. No
And,
one has sounded like that.
We kind of mentioned it earlier. Was
So
like
good.
stop talking about it, but like both of their guitars, like they both play guitars from this little, and actually thanks it on the record, right, or like on the liner notes on one of the, like there's this certain guitar company, right? Oh, I can't find it, but like there is a certain, what is it? No, it's like it's a little type of guitar.
It's a little company called Gibson.
It's a little type. No, it's a little type of.
It's
guitar.
it's like Sears of England.
Is it
like,
PV?
yeah.
I don't know whose little dog is that though. There's a little dog running around.
We got a bunch of guests tonight.
There's a type of guitar that was made somewhere near there, and I looked it up about this guitar company. He said, Frankie Stubbs said that they would go there and they all sounded different, and it was like some dude making it in his house. He's like, you go in there and you'd have a cup of tea and you'd be standing in an inch of sawdust of them making these handmade guitars, and these are specifically the guitars that both him and Dickie Hammond used to make this.
Right. You know what's really funny is because we all why are we together? Is because we're fans and we're nerds and we're fanatics. We're nerds and we're fanatics. We're nerds and fanatics.
Special
We're talking
cameos.
about Mush.
So we're nerds and fanatics, and we're always constantly loving learning new things and everything.
Yeah.
And I remember going, so by the way, what's mush? And he goes, what's wrong with you? It's short for mushrooms.
You know what? No, listen.
And I was like, how did I never know?
I never knew that until you just said that, but something that I did learn.
I'm like, you guys don't sound like mushroom music.
No
It has multiple meanings.
He goes, he's like, we did a reggae version.
Something I just learned was their original tour van, and I forget the name that they bought. Originally, they bought their tour van and stuff like that off selling magic mushrooms. That's what Frankie Stubbs and I think Dickie Hammond did. They sold magic mushrooms. That's
so funny.
incredible. I didn't even know that.
That is
Puppy
so funny.
I want to get over here, motherfucker.
Denise got it. That is so funny. Yeah, so I was. He was like, "Are you taking a piss at me? What do you mean you don't know what mush is?" I go, "I'm in the States. I come from New York. A mush is when you insult somebody."
Yeah, it's like mush.
And he's like, "It's a mushroom."
I mean, and now you feel really
I
dumb.
love how matter of
because
fact
it
it is.
is a
What's your
mushroom.
problem?
Right. It's like
have you not looked at
it's
the
like
cover
the
of this
Pogues
album?
writing an album called Drinking Songs. What
Yeah.
do you guys mean by that?
All right, I'm really trying to analyze the nuances of your album.
So the beautiful thing about a great record that you can revisit a lot, and I know we've listened to it, we listened on the way here and stuff, is you can have so many different favorites, Not So Vicious is Holy Hell, it's amazing. But for me, I love also that guitar solo. Bowl of Flies just destroys me. So what song would you say?
Yeah, we need to talk
about your favorite song.
Yeah. So Jason, mostly because you're the guest.
Because
and
it's
take
you,
this.
Jason. Cheers,
And
buddy.
really,
I need another beer.
definitely need to.
I'll tell you what it is. It's I Want the Moon. That's the one.
I Want the Moon
And-
is
and-
incredible.
Cheers.
True.
Being
I don't expect too much from honeymoons.
being someone who loves love, that's the one that gets me, kills me.
I think
That was the
you know what's
best era.
interesting to hear about the fact that it's his voice is extra gravelly on that. When they recorded all of them, and the last one he had to record, and he said he was incredibly sick. He was incredibly sick, and they still had to record that. So, which I think is I love his gravelly voice with his
what he
lyrics and the
said,
sound. I like the way they go together. It makes it
good
so
combination.
special.
We were on Marlo's boat. Shout out to Marlo Sanchez. And Marlo goes,
Head of security.
Head of security. Thank
you.
you. You need something.
Okay.
So Marlo
Security of the
goes.
first world.
Thank you. Marlo goes. When Dwayne met Frankie Stubbs, he just looked at him, shook his hand, and Dwayne, he's an old drummer of Red
I
Boys.
love Dwayne.
He's a man of very. Cheers, my brother. He's a man of very little words. He said, Dwayne.
He's our next guest.
Dwayne went up to him just like that. Dwayne went up to him and just looked at when I didn't say nice to meet you. He goes, the fucking moon.
I mean,
Because he's like,
That
I'm
is
off the
Dwayne.
moon, the fucking moon.
I-
So
I-
that's
Has
what I mean.
Clouser not met
No,
Dwayne
because Dwayne's never around.
Yeah,
Like,
that would be awesome.
That song means the most.
Yeah. What about you? What song because I'm sure it changes too.
I mean, I Want the Moon is obviously a hit, but like I love entire albums.
Yes, it's a perfect
This
like
whole
that.
like this part of the show where we like pick out certain songs
Right.
is
It's
is
hard.
always really abstract for me
Oh my
because
goodness.
I put it on. Because we talk about that on Operation Ivy. with
Totally.
Denise. It was
Well,
like,
this is the thing.
how do you separate
The whole record. It's
an
'cause it's like
album
a
like
movie.
that
Well,
into
this is
individual
the,
songs?
This is the whole
Right.
thing.
It's
I'm
one
going to
song.
really mess this up, and we're going to go about an hour over. How can I do this without mentioning Daniel Gay, my friend from Boston, whose favorite band, who I met through the pandemic, him
That's
covering
right.
Leatherface songs on piano.
And he
his
does
favorite
them-
song is Dead Industrial Atmosphere, which is
Oh,
insanely
wow.
wicked. You
And
know?
that's actually about
I should check that out.
Sunderland,
I
where
bet
they're
he could do a
from.
great
It's very-
version of that. I
Look
mean,
at, I'm talking about
that
you,
guy
Daniel
is a
Gay. Look
perfect
at my,
musician.
Look at my arms here.
Daniel
Look at-
Gay is
for,
incredible.
for doing something.
And the
like
fact, and
interpreting
he
things like
takes.
this.
Have you heard? Like he
I
takes.
don't know the version. No.
He takes songs that are like he'll take Leatherface
Dissects them.
songs and he will absolutely make them his own, and they are incredible. But you can still tell that it's what it is, but it's like nothing like the original, and it's like
But he
so
totally
incredible.
gives you another view
Shout
of just
For
any
sure.
Shout
song.
out
He
Daniel
just
Gay,
interprets
Kid
these great
Sid, and we
songs.
love it. Our friends in Worcester,
Hey!
friends in Boston, Massachusetts. Shout out Jason Clouser.
Shout
wait,
out to
Tom, I need to
Philadelphia.
hear like. Okay, Tom, what are yours? Okay, I'm gonna
Well,
say
I'm
mine.
saying bowl of flies now, but honestly, are you kidding me? Springtime, not
Okay.
superstitious.
Springtime.
Pandora's
Right.
Box, and then Not a Day Goes By could be a wedding song. I mean, like they were nights
How
turning
many
into
people
days.
have walked down the aisle to Leatherface songs?
Good question. Let's.
How many people have been born to Leather?
That's
Well,
definitely.
conceived, but I'm
Who's
saying like
Leatherface
in
songs?
in the birthing room,
Totally,
in the delivery
totally.
room.
Probably
Well, you know,
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
because when you
Just-
have this
just put on
cult like
Mush, we're
this-
gonna get this baby out of here.
He even mentioned it. Cassie was so excited,
Get
about, you know,
pumped.
like, and we're in the kitchen the other night, and Jason's like, I got so much to say. I'm like, wait to the show because we want it to be very organic and honest, us talking and stuff. But Cassie's like, oh my gosh, look at this, and Frankie Stubbs is like, we didn't know we had people on the stage who love us. He goes, we met some very weird, creepy, cult-like, beautiful,
no. So I
talented
had this.
people.
Do you want me to talk about this? Well,
You need to
we
do the-
know
the
Paul.
You're gonna meet him tomorrow.
Okay, well,
He's
you will,
not staying or
but
you can take it out.
so he was part of the crew that I was talking
Sure.
about that absolutely loved Leatherface, and they lived at C11
Makes
in the
sense.
warehouses where there were lots of shows.
They stayed with us, yeah.
and yeah, they did, which is interesting because somebody
Posted in the
somebody
West End
named Brian,
documentary,
and there's a West End. There's a C11 like Facebook page, and
the
somebody
the
asked.
decline of the West End civilization.
Somebody asked, "Hey, I seem to think that like
ended
Frankie
pretty much.
Stubbs like played like solo at this
the
warehouse,
Echo Lounge show.
Yeah.
and can somebody confirm that because it's been bothering me for like 24 years, like." And
How
I
did
and I
nobody
was like,
record that,
I
by
was
the
like,
way?
Tom Chet, did they record
Marlo's
it?
got a couple of the songs.
Does he?
recorded.
I was like,
It was bothering me too for 24 years.
I
I
was-
couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I was like, Tom would know, and Tom was like, yeah, they did.
was June of
but no,
2000.
so I'm doing my research, right? And I read like an interview where I guess at the time like Frankie Stubbs wasn't doing interviews, like he just got kind of sick of like answering questions about his
Same
lyrics and
questions
stuff
over
like
and
that.
over
And like,
again.
so it was the new, I believe the new bass player, like because they split up in like '93.
It was Davey Burden, I
and
think,
they
yeah.
yes. And then they reformed in like
Shout out Davey
'98 or
Bird. He
whatever.
lives in St. Louis now.
He says that he was talking about with the interviewer. He was talking about like the tour, the first like time he had been to the U.S. and like toured and whatever. And he was like, yeah, people there. He's like, yeah. He's like, it was
very
really awesome
passionate.
to find out that we had like such a following, like an underground
You
following.
go to a town, you
He's
don't think
like,
no one knows you. And
but some of
everyone's
these
like,
people,
he's like, 200 kids
he's
love
like,
it.
some of them are really, really weird. He's like, because we met this guy that could piss in his mouth, and I was like,
That's Paul.
and I like sent like a little clip of that like interview and like that little to Tom, and I was just like, I wonder who this could be.
Who else could it be?
And it was.
You're gonna
still
meet
do
him
it?
tomorrow.
still do it?
Somebody from C11
still
can.
do it?
We'll ask him to do it
is-
tomorrow.
is,
Well, no,
Well,
before he
two
goes
beers.
on, and he's like, he lived in this warehouse, this like big warehouse, which he was talking about.
C11,
So
the
in like
original
my
West End.
research, I'm like listening to this person talk about like a place that I like hung, like you know, like
Yes.
you lived and we
Some-
all hung
some
out.
of the two of the best summers ever, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, we can go on and on. And this really is the kind of record and band that James absolutely right. That something happens that everyone connects with, and a lot of times it's just these like honest stories from the gut, and the heart, and you relate to them. So
Anybody who
You're
listens to
going
this should listen to Leatherface. Give him a shot.
yes.
And should you start with Mush? Is the question.
Okay, yes. I would
Is
totally
that
start
A
with
Is
lot
that
of
the
people
jumping-
would
I would
say
start-
that
I
that's
would start
the
with-
play.
Yes, and it's not even a shot. It's just a great record. If you like that, you're gonna love it.
Actually,
it's
yeah.
what it is.
It's-
It's not. It's
send me a
there's
note.
no chance
Yeah.
of you not loving it.
Send me a
It's
note, and
impossible.
I can tell you which
You tell
records
me-
you should
you
listen
tell me
Buy the
if you don't
record.
love. You send
You
me a
don't love
note
it.
if you don't love it.
I'll send me the record. I'll pay you the
Me
money.
and him in the
if you
parking
don't love
lot
it.
at this behind this bar in
Guaranteed.
Philadelphia, and he'll convince you.
Well,
Yeah.
it's their third record, I believe, right? Their third.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
The
think
first
it's
one was
like,
boots and braces, and razor blades and aspirin, and then
But
it was
so was it their third or fourth?
it was see,
I think it's their third.
Yeah, it was this, and it was this. It was
Cherry
It,
something.
it was Cherry Knowles before this, so that was the second one.
It doesn't
Okay.
And
matter.
the third was
This is the
this,
one that
fourth was
matters.
Minx, fifth was the
Minx,
last,
okay.
and they broke up, and he did Jesse, and then they reunited and did a few
But
records.
like, okay, I think that really
Get away right one day.
they, I think for this one they really honed, you know, because like for the first one you got to think like Frankie Stubbs was like I haven't listened to the first one or the second one, but you know Frankie Stubbs was obviously a new songwriter because
This
like
is the only band he's ever
nobody's
been
like.
in. He said he was like 20 years old, and someone said, "You want to be in a band?" And I was like, I was in 40 bad bands before
Well, I thought
started
like
one up with you.
HDQ was right.
Yeah, but it was like officially a band. Like I mean,
Yeah.
like Dickie did stuff with Angelic Upstarts and a few other bands, but it was like their first like real
Together?
Yeah, like it was the first thing he took serious enough to say I'm a songwriter.
But it's
just-
good. That's what you have songs that you've written
Right.
for nobody else. Just
But
for
it's
this.
just,
this
but
band.
Mush is like I
mean-
think like it is the
their
album
best
that
album.
most people would say. Well, I think it's the
Pete
people
Shelley
would
was
say
only in one
It should be
band.
your first
That's
one to
right.
listen to.
Pete Shelley wrote most of his Buzzcock songs when he was 15 years old.
Amazing. Yeah, Paul Weller with the Jam as well in the beginning. Well, he's done other
Something
records
about
since, but
that,
still,
and
you're absolutely right. Yeah, totally.
I think that's great.
Yeah, it's lovely. What's up?
I think this is incredible.
Classic
Thank
City.
Pizza Bag comes
Man, I
through.
just want to say that I love this show, and it feels so good because we haven't done it, the three of us, in a minute. It feels so good to have my brother Jason
Thank
here.
you so
It's
much
like
for having
the
me.
last day of school.
Yeah, it's the last day of
beautiful.
school, and we appreciate everyone
I'm so
watching.
happy to
we,
be
we
here.
appreciate everyone
I am
watching.
too. I'm
And
glad you came
shout
by.
out to Frankie Stubbs and Company and Leatherface from Sunderland, England. This little town.
Where's Sunderland?
It's about an hour outside of Newcastle.
Oh man,
South, right?
Yeah,
South.
Newcastle's up
On the
north.
coast.
It's a strange.
Yeah,
pla-
it's like on the
It's a,
east.
it's a boat. It's a
Yeah.
boating town.
Yeah.
Which, if you listen to records like The Last, you know, you got songs about it's nothing but songs about ships and stuff. You know, and it's like just
I just-
gorgeous, heartbreaking stuff.
Newcastle is off the beaten path.
I'm in love with the. I think what means the most to me out of this was like seeing the different side of people that I've loved forever, like through this.
Compassion
but,
and heartfelt.
But
and,
it's the same side. Like it's the tough guy look, because you see Frankie Stubbs and you think tough guy, you know,
He's a straight up.
and you hear the voice and you think tough guy.
Yeah.
And then you read the lyrics and you're just like, this is like an honest, like just a heartfelt, like he shows his vulnerability, like he's not afraid to show, just say things that are just.
You're absolutely right, because you think about now, like some of those bands that like when punk kind of had this big resurgence in the 90s, whatever, and some of them, even though they didn't hit it right, they were inspired and they like, oh yeah, I want to emote as well. You know what I mean? It's pretty
just-
cool.
Yeah. Oh, I hear somebody.
Sounds like Marlo.
Sounds like Marlo.
Man, shout out to Leatherface. Shout out to everyone who loves music.
Shout out
What's
to
up?
Marlo.
Hey!
Oh Jesus, are those
You're on
inserts?
camera.
Recording in process.
Get over here.
Yeah, yeah, my man. You know what I said? I go.
Fucking
Dwayne
love
said
it
the
so
fucking
much.
moon.
The
Cheers.
fucking
Cheers.
Beautiful.
Oh man. Well, listen. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Jason Clouser. If you're ever in Philly,
Thank you
hit
for
him
having
up.
me.
This guy makes a mean meatloaf. he makes
Hang out at his kitchen,
he makes
please.
Don't
a-
let your meatloaf.
He makes
Hang
it.
out in the kitchen.
Listen, always stay in touch with yourself and never let your meat go. He makes a mean winter stew. Again, shout out Leatherface Mush. Yes, Jared Bote in Canada. I suggest everyone just listen to this record and drink a cheap glass of red wine. It's a great night.
Sounds awesome.
Cheers.
Sounds like a plan.
Boy.
Yes.